Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over what has happened to the stock, what we can expect moving forward and all of that good stuff. So as per usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, I do have a membership section on YouTube where I constantly share my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on the charts. Mainly on Tesla stock, but sometimes other stocks as well that I see that are worth sharing for just $3 a month. So definitely check it out. Link is below, or for $5, access to all of that plus NVIDIA daily updates. But jumping into a Tesla with an unbelievable 6% rally, closing at fresh all-time highs, $424.77. I'm actually surprised. I honestly thought it will stop at 420.69, which it actually did for a brief, for like maybe 20-30 minutes or something like that, before it ended up breaking even higher. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty much, it's crazy to say, but we are now officially in uncharted territories. Tesla has officially entered uncharted territories. It is the highest price it has ever been, ever. And that's pretty damn unbelievable, right? But what does this mean moving forward, right? That is the main question. Well, let's go back to the daily really quick. Actually, let's start with the 15-minute chart, right? The 15-minute chart has been kind of telling the story for quite some time. You can see, the EMAs and the market bias have all been pretty much green on this 15-minute chart all the way down from $350, and it's just been a pretty much smooth ride up on Tesla, right? So that's always a nice sign to see. Very, very smooth, very, very clean movement here. Now, the main thing I'll be looking for is this, right? For the short term, right? The very, 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 very short term, right? Right now, Tesla still looks obviously really good, right? There's obviously, it is very, very, very overextended, but when we're looking at the 15-minute chart, there's nothing bearish about this, right? Like, you can't look at this chart and say it's bearish, because technically speaking, there's nothing actually bearish. It's making higher highs, higher lows, right? Market bias is green, all the EMAs are green, and it's above every single one of them. So one thing you can look for potentially to start maybe seeing a little bit of weakness is slowly crossing below each of the EMAs, below the green, which is the 9, the red, which is the 21, and then especially if it closes or start moving below the white one, which is the 50 EMA on the 15-minute chart. You can see we've never moved below it at all, or the market bias pretty much this whole ride up. In fact, we did over here, which is why we were kind of red, and then we came back above it, turned it into support, and we've pretty much been rocketing above it really ever since, right? So just a pretty nice smooth ride. So that's pretty much those three main steps you'd want to be looking for at least the very short-term time frame, for the momentum to start potentially fading away. Next thing you want to look for now on the daily is, well, again, we're pretty much short squeezing, right? It's either short squeeze and or just very powerful momentum, a lot of call flow coming in on Tesla, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The main thing you want to look for here is kind of the same idea, just on a daily time frame that I just mentioned on the 15-minute time frame. It'll just be obviously a little slower naturally, but same idea. We have the 9 EMA. Now again, it's very, very far away from the 9 EMA despite this massive rally, right? It's only even farther away arguably. So this is where those one of those situations where you got to be careful up here, right? There's a lot of momentum, but it's one of those situations where, like, if you're not already in it, it's you're like looking to get in roughly now, you got to make sure you're picking your battles very carefully here, right? And you know what you're doing essentially, because it is a very delicate situation, because there's very powerful bullish momentum, but when will the music stop is the question, especially when we're so far away from even the 9 EMA on the daily, right? Again, when I see these kind of things, I do take extra caution, right? For instance, I like the way Shop is looking, right? Shop, I actually entered that today, beautiful looking retest, right? But same idea, when it was very far away, it came back down to it, right? A little bit far away, came back down into it. So Tesla, at some point, I do expect it to, well, come back down into that 9 EMA. I don't know when. I'm not shorting it, obviously. Nothing like that whatsoever, right? I'm still holding my long-term account. It's getting very tempting to sell, I'm not going to lie. But, I expect it to, at some point, honestly, potentially sooner than later, make its way back down to the 9 EMA, or worst case scenario would be kind of like a sideways price action as this catches up to it, right? But I want to see this catch up to the price action for me to get a bit more confidence that we're not just getting a little too far ahead of ourselves, right? Because if it catches up, or if Tesla comes back down and kind of meets it in the middle, when we continue bouncing off of it, just like we have it on the daily chart, pretty much since this rally began, arguably, if you technically just bought the crossover right here, bam, you were pretty much good to go. And it's been holding it pretty much the whole ride up, right? That would have been an absolutely unbelievable trade if you just entered right here at 250 and you just rode it up, right? You just rode that thing up. Now, obviously, the elections was the massive risk there, but nonetheless, right? Even if you missed that election, you could have easily entered, for instance, right here. Nice retest and massive continuation. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that I want to see it come back down into it, as we've been doing it many times before, right? And I want to see that continued support of the 9 EMA holding on Tesla. Now, obviously, if, this is a big if, but at some point it will happen. We're not just going to only go up. The main thing I want to look for is, do we actually turn into support, or do we start closing below it? Because again, if we close below it, I expect us to move pretty quickly down to the 21 EMA, whatever level that'll be at that moment, right? Because obviously they're going to continue moving up with the stock price slowly but surely, right? But that'll be the next level. And if we lose the 21 EMA, we most likely head back down to the 50 EMA / market bias, sitting all the way down here in the kind of lower end of the 300s, right? Obviously, one step at a time. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow or anything like that whatsoever, but it is something worth just preparing yourself for, because again, phenomenal rally. For all we know, it can continue. Again, the way I look at it is, as long as we're above this green line, I assume there's a much higher chance it will overall continue higher rather than essentially start kind of cooling off, if that makes sense, right? And that's just a simple way of looking at it, right? Again, that's actually the main reason I'm still holding my long-term account, which is up like, I think the average on that one is at like 165. It's doing phenomenal. It's doing very, very well for itself. But how do I want to put this? I'm not even remotely thinking about selling until I see it show some momentum being lost and the bullish momentum really slowing down. One of which being, again, a close below that green 9 EMA. One thing I want to talk about is this, right? Let's move away the short-term noise here a little bit. Let's go on the weekly chart a little bit here. This is something I wanted to kind of discuss that I kind of find a little bit interesting. Now, let's just theoretical purposes. By the way, the weekly, holy shit, the weekly stochastic is ungodly. Like we're literally in uncharted territory. The weekly has never been this high before, ever. Let's take a look at the band's regression actually. How's this one looking? Yeah, it's pretty much the same way it looked back here. So there's a few things I want to mention that are very, very interesting. Two things that are very interesting. First of which, let's take a look and compare this current massive rally compared to this one. Right? This was a massive rally, and now we're essentially doing more or less a very similar rally, right? And then we had the massive correction, so maybe we get that. We'll see. But one thing that's very interesting between these two rallies is if we measure from the bottom of this here to the top of this rally, what percent increase was that? Closer to 200%, about 190-ish%, closer to 200%. Let's measure this rally from roughly the bottom here to roughly the top over here, 200%. Very, 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 very close to each other in terms of the overall rally percentage, right? Both at about that 200% rally. So that's a pretty interesting stat, if you will, that I'm kind of, eyeballing and making me wonder, is there a chance that this is just a similar move to what we experienced here before this kind of cool off begins? Always a possibility. You never know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Nothing is guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. Just something to kind of note. Now, going off of that, assuming, again, this is just assuming, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but let's just assume for now, just for demonstrational purposes, that, yeah, we top around here. Let's say around here, we find the top and we start the correction and Tesla starts cooling off. Let's just say that in theory happens over the next few weeks or whatever the case may be. I actually think it could be setting up something unbelievably bullish heading into kind of, later into the 2025 year. And that's going to be something like this. It could be an ungodly, like a truly astronomical cup and handle pattern, right? This could be something, and this is the pattern that we set up here. Remember the cup and handle pattern that we talked about here a long time ago? This is what we set up right here. And then we had the nice little handle, and then we broke out. We could be setting up this. If this kind of thing created this kind of move, which, by the way, if we take the measuring from here to here and we measure it something like this roughly, and we measure the breakout roughly, from here you can see the move is almost measured. But this could be truly like the cup and handle of cup and handles, like the king of cup and handles, because if we get this massive cup here, and let's say, again, just theoretical purposes, we do correct. And let's say we start creating that handle right here and we kind of start zigzagging like this down. This could create an astronomical move. Like this really could set off the stock. And if you think this rally was insane, if this pattern ends up forming and it actually plays out the way, I would expect it to, assuming it actually begins forming, I think Tesla can set up for probably one of the craziest rallies. Again, I don't know how long it'll take. Maybe it'll be 2025. Maybe it'll even take until 2026. I'm not honestly sure. But this could be something that truly takes the stock to the absolute next level. Because if this plays out, if we measure it, this would be probably taking the stock to truly the next phase, right? This would literally take the stock easily into the 600s to 700s, easily. Like this is nothing for now. But again, that is going to take time. This is a weekly chart. If this pattern were to play out, it will take many, many, many weeks, even many months for this pattern to not only do this handle, for instance, but to even play out. So this will take probably from here, assuming we start relatively soon, doing this handle and then breaking out and then actually executing the pattern, at least a year, in my opinion, maybe 2. But this could set up for an unbelievable move moving forward for Tesla over the next couple of years. So just watch for that, because again, at some point we will correct, at some point Tesla will top, at some point it will stop this, very euphoric move to the upside. I don't know when, and as of right now, I have no reason to believe it's going to be now, for instance, mainly because of what I talked about with the emails, right? But with that being said, that's just me kind of looking, well into the future of what can potentially happen. So just watch for that moving forward, and maybe fast forward 1 year and it's actually happening. You remember where you heard it first. But yeah, all that being said, again, I want to make it clear, the momentum is still bullish, very, very aggressive. I'm not selling on my long-term shares yet. I am very much considering it, but I haven't yet. But 9 EMA is still bullish, but we are very, very overextended. The bands of regression are once again above the red line, which is pretty ridiculous. Like, that doesn't usually happen to this extent without the top being relatively close. Our size at pretty much like very, very elevated levels. Stochastic is as well, and the weeklies are both also showing these. So just again, want to make it very clear, be careful up here. So I'm going to say, obviously there's potentially more room to the upside, but caution, in my opinion, not financial advice, is advised. But yeah, taking a look at options flow very quickly. The bulls are still dominating over the bears. I think there's absolutely no question about that. The bears are trying to step in here. You can see at 2025, 0919, pretty much about 5-ish million puts came in over here on Tesla. So the bears are trying to cash this top. I don't get why people wouldn't just at least wait for the 9 EMA to get lost. I mean, in my opinion, if I was a bear, or if I was just trying to, short Tesla stock, because it is extremely overextended, I would at the very least, at the bare minimum, wait for Tesla stock to lose the daily 9 EMA. Because if it's not losing the daily 9 EMA, I really see no reason to try and time the top here. So it's, just my personal thoughts moving forward. But yeah, all that being said, yeah, let me know what you think down below. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.